people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The undercard information has been officially released for the Amanda Serrano versus Erica Cruz undisputed featherweight title fight. We already knew that Alicia Baumgartner would be the co-main event to the main event opposite the ring, El Mechaled, but it appears that there are going to be... It's an undisputed doubleheader. Undisputed in the co-main and undisputed in the main. But one fight that almost immediately caught my attention was the battle of the unbeatens set to go down in the women's super bantamweight division for what is the IBF Intercontinental Super Bantamweight title between unbeaten Ramla Ali of the United Kingdom and Australia's own Avril Mathie. This is not a bring-along fight. You could argue that every fight that both fighters have had up until this point has been a bring-along fight, an experience fight in order to garner experience and bank some rounds. But this fight is about creating separation between the winner of the fight and the loser. Setting yourself apart. In terms of the tail of the tape, there really isn't that much between Ramla and Avril. They both stand in at approximately 5'7", decent dimensions for a super bantamweight. Avril is approximately 2 years older than Ramla. Avril's 35, whereas Ramla, she's 33. 33 years old, sporting a professional record of 7 wins with no losses, no draws, 2 knockouts, having last seen action earlier last year on the undercard of Usyk versus Joshua 2. She knocked out Crystal Nova in just the first round. Racked up her second professional knockout, Avril Mathie. She sports a professional record of 8 wins with no losses, 1 draw with 3 knockouts. She saw action only once, just once, last year. She really wasn't that busy. She fought 2 times in 2021 and only once last year. This will be her first fight of this year. She's hitting the ground running. This will be the first 10-rounder of her professional boxing career. Avril Mathie, she's been around for a bit. We've talked about her a few times here on the channel. For the first time in her career, she will be fighting in a 10-rounder. It really is a step up in competition for the both of them, both unbeaten fighters. It's a step up for Avril, but it's a step up for Ramla too. As stated, it's about setting yourself apart. It's about creating separation for the winner of the fight to distinguish themselves as a better fighter than their opponent. And as stated, where Avril Mathie really wasn't all that active last year, having only seen action once, Ramla Ali, she fought 3 times. She fought 3 times in 2021 and 3 times in 2022. This will also be her first fight of this year on a very big show. This fight appears to be a step in the direction of the IBF Super Bantamweight title that's currently in possession of New Zealand's owned Shernika Johnson, who's currently under orders to take on yet another matchroom fighter in Ellie Scott. Now, word round the campfire seems to be that Ramla herself, would like to take on Mexico's own WBC champion at Super Bantamweight, Yemi Mercado. And opposite the ring, Yemi Mercado, I would actually give Ramla Ali good odds to win that fight. But this fight appears to be a step in the direction of the IBF title, the full title, as there's a lesser version of the title on the line here. The Intercontinental title. I think that Matchroom would be playing this all wrong, trying to match Ramla Ali against the winner of Scottney versus Johnson. I think what they should do is have Ramla face another champion at this weight. The WBO title very recently was vacated. France's own Sigaline Lafarve, former WBO champion, unbeaten. She was stripped of the title, I should say. Because that title has been vacated, you wonder that the Ramla Ali people and the people of their matchroom shouldn't explore that avenue of opportunity. Maybe challenge the WBO's interim champion of Argentina, Deborah Dionysius, to see if they can't get in line for the full title, the full version of the title, or go the WBC route. Make Yemi Mercado an offer. See if you can't get her in the ring. What you do is you have your unbeaten up-and-comers, your prize stallions, one by one, take over this division, take over this weight class. If Ellie's set to fight for the IBF title, have Ramla take on somebody else for another title, another champion. Don't forget that Matchroom has at least one champion at Super Bantamweight in their stable. Venezuela's own Mayerling Rivas, reigning WBA champion. You've got Ellie, you've got Ramla, you've got Mayerling. Fight by fight, you can take this division over until you've got the run of the place. I don't actually think that Ramla, should she beat Avril, I don't think she should move into a Scotney fight. Provided that Ellie beats Shernika and provided that Ramla beats Avril. As far as Ramla and Avril, what you need to know is that Avril Mathie, she's a tough cookie and she's a game fighter, but she's got holes. She's still very raw. To the eye, she's not as put together as Ramla Ali, even though both fighters, both unbeaten up-and-comers, are in very similar places in their careers. Ramla Ali comes from a somewhat better amateur background than Avril Mathie does, and Ramla, at least to the eye, seems a more put-together fighter than Avril. Not as many holes. I think Ramla Ali has the better corner, too. She's been training with veteran trainer Manny Robles the last couple of fights, and there is a noticeable difference in Ramla. She's showing more spite. She's showing a more pro style than an amateur style, which is, we used to see in her fights in the very beginning. Going from a more point-based style to actually inflicting damage on the woman opposite the ring. That's what we've been seeing from Ramla, whereas Avril, she's tough. But she's messy. She's not defensively responsible. There's a lot of room to get punches in there between the shots. She's tall for the weight and long for the weight, but she's not tight. So at first glance, I feel like I have to give Ramla Ali the edge here. I feel like at minimum, Ramla can win a points decision. And we'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches, but first look, I like Ramla in this thing. In men's heavyweight news, veteran trainer Robert Garcia on Joshua versus Wilder says, whoever lands first will win the first fight. That kind of fight prediction, it's almost a cop-out because you're essentially riding the fence. In some ways you are, but in some ways you aren't. There is some truth to the idea that whoever lands first and whoever lands hard might take the other guy out. Veteran trainer Robert Garcia would strongly advise Anthony Joshua to take at least 2 to 3 fights before facing Deontay Wilder. Eddie Hearn, who promotes the former 2-time heavyweight champion, is very interested in matching his boxer against Wilder, the former WBC champion, at some point in 2023. One thing I had told Joshua's team, and I would tell them again now, is I don't recommend them to look for a big fight such as Wilder immediately, Garcia told Izquierdazo. Nor should they. That's not the way things are done. That's not what Deontay Wilder did. Not that long ago, Deontay Wilder was coming off of 2 consecutive losses to Tyson Fury, and his first fight back wasn't a big fight. It wasn't a fight against some killer, some top guy. It was against Robert Helenius, who had already been stopped in the past by Johan Duhaupas, by Gerald Washington. Those guys ain't got the reputation for being big punchers that Deontay Wilder has for being a big puncher. He was able to ease himself back into contention and back into activity. But when Anthony Joshua does the exact same thing, he's met with criticism. Very recently, Eddie Hearn released his 3-fight plan for AJ now that he's on the rebound, and as you can imagine, the usual boo birds were up to their old antics, up to their old tricks. Anthony is a huge star in Europe, one of the biggest in history. He should look for 2 to 3 fights a little more adequate. I don't want to say easy because there are no easy fights, but he needs a more adequate fight. Joshua is looking to bounce back after suffering back-to-back decision losses to unified champion Alexander Usyk. Garcia trained Joshua for the rematch with Usyk. The two have since parted ways, with Joshua currently hunting for a new head trainer. He needs to regain confidence and get used to a new trainer, Garcia said. There was a lot of confusion in association with Anthony Joshua's corner and what the dichotomy of things were. What was the dynamic? You've gone as far as enlisting the aid of a veteran like Robert Garcia so that Angel Fernandez would be the head trainer, so that he would be the guy in charge. And bear in mind that Angel Fernandez was already a member of Anthony Joshua's team. He just got elevated to a more hands-on role. He became head trainer after Anthony split from Rob McCracken. Longtime trainer of many years, Garcia trained Joshua for the rematch with Usyk. The two have since parted ways, with Joshua currently hunting for a new head trainer. He needs to regain confidence and get used to a new trainer, Garcia said, because it was a big challenge to get a new trainer and go directly against Usyk, as it was in my case. It's not only a challenge for AJ, but also for me. To go into a rematch after being dominated in the first fight, it was difficult. Should a fight between Joshua and Wilder get made, Garcia is confident that the contest will never reach a decision.
No, somebody's getting knocked out.
Many a boxing fan is divided on how they feel this fight will play out. There's a lot of people out there that think Anthony Joshua's chinny, he's got a glass jaw, can't take a shot, can't take a punch. As soon as Wilder breathes on this guy, he goes out. There are those people, but there are other people that feel that, you know what, whatever Deontay Wilder was a couple of years ago, that's not what he is here today. After 2 systematic beatings at the hands of Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder might be a shot fighter, and unfortunately, the Robert Helenius fight,
It provided little in terms of answers to that question because it only lasted 1 round.
and that's not a knock on Wilder. That's not a critique of him or a criticism, because he don't get paid by the hour, he don't get paid by the round. He took the guy out as soon as he could, took the guy out off the first hard right hand that landed. But because we didn't see him,
Because the fight didn't go a few rounds, because we didn't see Wilder actually weather a shot, weather a punch, we don't really know where he's at based on 1 round, 1 single round with Robert Helenius.
I think that fight wouldn't go to the scorecards, Garcia said. Both of them hit hard. Many may think that Wilder is going to knock AJ out, but I think that whoever lands first will win the fight. I worked with Anthony, and he hits hard. I have never felt Wilder's power, but it looks like a hard punch. But Anthony's punching power is very strong. I think Anthony has the same punching power as Wilder. It can't be any less strong than Wilder. So I think that whoever lands first wins the fight.
Who's the harder puncher has long been a subject of debate the last 3 or 4 years, ever since this fight became a hot topic. Though in truth, Anthony doesn't need to hit as hard as Deontay Wilder to hurt Deontay Wilder. For Christ's sake, Eric Molina buzzed him.
And Harold Sconeers dropped him. Harold Sconeers, a journeyman who almost got Deontay Wilder out of there many years ago in Wilder's native Tuscaloosa, Alabama. This is well before the systematic beatings Wilder suffered at the hands of Tyson Fury. And the moral of that story is Anthony doesn't need to be as big a puncher to hurt Deontay Wilder, though he is a big puncher.
He's a bigger puncher than Harold Sconeers, I'd wager, and he's a bigger puncher than Eric Molina. Did you see what he did to Eric Molina?
Though I digress, AJ's headspace has been the subject of some discussion.
Is he lacking confidence, and that's why he's once again looking for a new trainer, coming off his 3rd loss, his 2nd consecutive loss to Usyk overall, if nothing else, having to break in a new trainer.
That's a trial in and of itself. Robert hit the nail on the head. You don't want to go into a big fight while you're breaking in a new experimental trainer.
The Bluebirds and the critics don't want Anthony to be afforded the same courtesies that Deontay is.
Their ulterior motives are obvious. They want Deontay to maintain this air of invincibility in order to indirectly glorify Tyson Fury for having beaten him. They'll glorify Wilder, pretending to be his supporters, when in reality, they're just Fury fanboys.
Joshua versus Wilder ain't next, whether you like it or not.
Wilder's going to have to find someone else to keep busy with, presumably Andy Ruiz. If not Andy, someone else, because since having lost the 3rd fight to Tyson Fury, Wilder's only fought for a round.
It may not feel like it, but the 3rd Fury fight was over a year ago in late 2021.
Since then, Deontay has only fought for all of 1 round. Opposite the ring, Robert Helenius. If the showdown with Anthony is set to go down at some point this year, Wilder doesn't want to have to be shaken off ring rust in that fight. He needs to get back out there.
That's what Anthony's gonna do in April.
As Eddie Hearn has mapped out Anthony Joshua's 2023 with an April return, a white rematch, and a blockbuster fight with Deontay Wilder.
I've been saying it the whole time that Anthony's still worth a lot of money, and he's not on anybody else's time, and he shouldn't operate that way.
He should operate on his own time, because that's what the other guys are doing. Irrespective of pressure from Team Wilder or public pressure from the boxing community at large.
You're not on Deontay Wilder time. You're supposed to be on Anthony Joshua time.
Joshua wants to return with a top 15 guy, then in the summer, probably versus Dillian White, and then a mega fight with Deontay Wilder. Eddie Hearn, head of Matchroom Boxing and Joshua's career-long promoter, revealed during his most recent appearance on the DAZN Boxing Show podcast. The key is we want him to fight 3 times this year. There's an open line with Shelly Finkel, Wilder's manager. Wilder is going to fight Andy Ruiz. That fight was ordered by the WBC.
Things have gone pretty quiet for that fight, the Wilder versus Ruiz fight. We haven't heard much in terms of fight news or tentative fight dates
for that fight. With widespread rumors that Fox, where Deontay Wilder has been fighting his last few fights, with widespread rumors that last year was their last year in the sport of boxing, it's conceivable that Wilder will be boxing on Showtime moving forward. There's a feeling that maybe Showtime is struggling to accommodate all these fighters, but that's more of a PBC problem than a Matchroom problem. AJ's gonna fight probably the first week of April. When people talk about rebuilding, there's no rebuilding here. We're just looking for momentum. I'm not talking about a fight against someone you never heard of. I'm talking about a top 15 guy that AJ can fight with a new team. Then go on to have a big stadium fight in the summer. I'm not even ruling out fight 2, number 2 of the year against Deontay Wilder.
Eddie's fixated on that fight.
He mentions it often, and he seems determined to deliver it. The interest in doing it does seem earnest enough from where I'm sitting, though in truth,
You should treat those people how they treated you. You'll get to them when you get to them.
they cared more about doing a second fight with Tyson Fury than they cared about unifying titles with Anthony Joshua. Deontay Wilder admitted that himself, along with that the Joshua deal was worth more money than the Fury deal. So at this point,
You can entertain the Wilder fight. You can even try to work towards it, but it really shouldn't even be the focus of what you're doing.
because you don't know for sure that those people aren't wasting your time all over again dangling this carrot in front of their fans, a Joshua fight.
Dangling this carrot in front of their fans, dangling this carrot in front of you to waste your time while they intend to sell them something else.
The plan now is to rebuild Anthony Joshua to become a 3-time heavyweight world champion, noted Hearn. It's all very well being brave, listening to Twitter, going out and fighting Deontay Wilder next. But there has to be a plan, a smart plan. This is an important moment we must get right. I truly believe Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury are nailed on for 2023. They have to be.
And they might.
It's conceivable that Usyk and Fury will be locking horns in the second quarter of this year, and depending on who the winner is, maybe Joshua can fight them. If Fury beats Usyk, maybe Joshua can have that long-awaited showdown with Fury, but if Usyk beats Fury,
You don't want another crack at the apple with that guy.
I feel like that's when Wilder most comes into the conversation, when that option becomes more attractive. In the event that Usyk beats Fury,
He already beat you 2 times. There's no sense in going back for more. You fight Wilder in that situation, and that's still a very big fight transatlantically.
but the first order of business is getting back in there, getting active, getting some momentum going. Get back to knocking people out, because that's what Anthony is. He's a knockout artist.
He's a knockout merchant with a hefty KO percentage. I think a lot of people have forgotten that based on those Usyk fights.
Not realizing everybody's not Alexander Usyk opposite the ring of Filip Hrgovic or a Otto Wallin, a Zhilei Zhang, a Dillian White for a second time. There's a very good chance that Anthony Joshua takes any one of those guys out.
Because we're reading that Anthony's in the market for a new head trainer, I can only deduce that Angel Fernandez won't be in his corner.
At least not as head trainer. It may be a necessary evil that Anthony Joshua completely change his decorum in what is this second phase of his career, but I'd like to hear something concrete.
Might sound a bit selfish, but I'd like to hear something more conclusive. I'd like to see Anthony make a decision, get working on things, and hit the ground running.